Now, the leader of the newly launched Citizens Coalition for Change in Zimbabwe says that he's confident that his party will do well in the upcoming local government by-elections. Thousands attended a rally in Harare to listen to Nelson Chamisa.
They came from far and wide. Not even the presence of security forces would deter them. Emboldened by overwhelming support, Nelson Chamisa did not waste time to get his message across.
This is not rebranding. It's a brand new path. CCC is a declaration and one declaration there with CCC is the next government in Zimbabwe.
The rally comes ahead of several council and parliamentary by-elections next month, which is seen as a significant step as Zimbabwe heads to national elections in 2023.
We will never allow an election that is rigged. Never again is an election going to be rigged. Never again is a 2018 going to be repeated.
Although it's still early days, the rally may just be an indication of the support of the Citizens Coalition for Change can expect. Kylie Kumalo, SABC News.
Well, to tell us a little bit more about the Citizens Coalition for Change rally and some of the challenges that the party faced, we're now joined by the party's national spokesperson, Advocate Fadzayi Mahere. Thanks so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Peter. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. Before we talk about today, I know that your party has faced quite a number of challenges in the days leading up to today's rally. Tell us about some of the obstacles that you had to navigate.
Thank you very much, Peter. So over the last few weeks, we've seen an escalation of political violence and unlawful arrests. You'll obviously be aware that, some of our leaders, including Honorable Tendai Iti and Honorable Amos Chibaya, were unlawfully arrested this week for carrying out their by-election campaigns, even though they were complying with COVID-19 protocols, even though they'd sought police authorization in accordance with the Maintenance of Public Order Act. We also saw, some of our campaigners and our members being arrested and tortured in Harare. There were 13 of them, 12 men and 1 woman on Friday. They were badly tortured, and there's footage of them being beaten very badly and assaulted by the police. They were held at Harare Central Police Station. They're currently remanded in custody. Even as far as Mashingo, we saw the arrest of 16 of our members, again, who were carrying out their campaigns. We saw the same thing happen last week in Koba and Gweru. So what's very clear is that there's been a pattern of political violence in an attempt to stop the Citizens Coalition for Change from campaigning and expressing its political rights, which are guaranteed by our Constitution. By contrast, our counterparts in ZANU-PF are being allowed to campaign without impediment. We saw the rally that was conducted by Mr. Mnangagwa just last week. He bussed in people, he flouted all the regulations, and yet we see impediments when we want to carry out, any sort of political activity. We've also seen some difficulties, and that's, to put it very politely, I think a better term there is gross irregularities in the voters' roll, and a very inadequate explanation by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. We've seen them moving multiple voters, changing constituencies, doing an unlawful delimitation process, a lot of ghost voters that have been stuffed onto the voters' roll. And all of these things are things that issues that we've taken up with the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, and obviously there have been threats against some of our members flowing from that. So as you can imagine, it's quite a difficult time for the Citizens Coalition for Change. The regime is clearly in panic mode. They know that, the most formidable opponent in the country to the rule of Mr. Mnangagwa and of ZANU-PF is the Citizens Coalition for Change as led by President Nelson Chamisa.
All right, and all roads led to Zimbabwe grounds today, but you faced more challenges. I believe there were a number of roadblocks. What was all that about?
Well, absolutely. Even before we get to the roadblocks, when we applied for the police authorization, or when we notified the police in accordance with the law about this star rally, the police set out a list, a host of conditions which are completely unconstitutional. They told us that we could not bring in citizens from other constituencies. They told us we would not be allowed to sing at this rally. They told us that they would not be able to use our slogans at this rally. They told us basically that we had to sit in silence. That's the effect of the police conditions that were sent to us. And even coming up to today, we saw all the feeder roads that lead to Highfield, which is one of the constituencies in Harare South, all packed with numerous police roadblocks, unexplained. It wasn't clear what they were looking for. So it's not as though they were out to look for cars without number plates or cars that were otherwise flouting the traffic laws. They were literally looking for yellow shirts. People got so frustrated and annoyed by these roadblocks that they just ended up parking their cars, parking their transport, and walking down to Zimbabwe grounds on foot. And I think the enormity of the crowd is just testament to the fact that people decided in their minds that, look, nothing is going to stand in the way of us expressing ourselves politically, because we are sick and tired of the repression, the poverty, the injustice, the corruption that permeates Mr. Mnangagwa's government, and we demand change.
So with all these restrictions, not allowed to use buses and roadblocks, you still got quite a sizable crowd there. How many people do you think arrived in the end?
It's very difficult to estimate, but there were thousands upon thousands and thousands. The crowd was so big, Peter, that the sound system that we had hired was just not big enough. There simply was we just did not have space and capacity for the number of people that were there. And I think a lot of the commentators who attended and monitored the rally said that, the last time we saw such a crowd at Zimbabwe grounds was in 1980 at independence. It just tells us that we really are at the turn of an age. We're at the cusp of something very historic and beautiful in Zimbabwe. People want change. And one of the key things that we seek to do as the Citizens Coalition for Change is to inspire hope and a thirst for transformation on the part of the citizens, empowering citizens and emboldening them and inspiring them to participate in the collective change that we all seek.
So what was the message from your president? This was the first opportunity as the new party to communicate with your party faithful. What did he have to say? The key message was really around registering to vote. The need for all citizens in every village, in every town, in every city, and even in the diaspora to vote is our only way, only foot forward in as far as effecting constitutional change in this country. So he really hammered home the need for Zimbabweans to register to vote, to ensure that they turn out in their millions on voting day and then proceed to defend the vote. He also spoke about the trajectory of the movement, how it's not going to be business as usual with this particular movement, and what we're building is something big and disruptive. So it's not going to be a political party in the typical sense that we've seen in our political landscape in Zimbabwe, but it's a big citizen movement that has got scope and space for everyone. It's a brand new entity, completely divorced from the NDC alliance, the politics of the NDC, and any entity of the past. And he said that the constitution, the leadership, the values, the character, the ideology, the plans, the programs, the policies will all be rolled out in due course when we carry out our big launch. So far, the party's only announced its name and announced its entry into the political marketplace, but there's going to be a big launch when all these finer details are delivered and communicated in detail to the people.
He also spoke to the livelihoods question. You know that we've got an education crisis in Zimbabwe. Teachers are underpaid and are speaking out. And he said very clearly that, we stand in solidarity with the teachers who are in crisis and have been robbed of their dignity. Same goes for the soldiers, the nurses, the doctors, all civil servants who simply are not earning a living wage. It's no secret that Zimbabwe's economy is in crisis. South Africa has felt it with the forced migration disaster that's been, caused as a result of the economic and socio-political crisis that we see in Zimbabwe. He spoke of the need for, people to return to the center of decision-making. If you look at all the poverty, the injustice, the corruption, the looting that we see in Zimbabwe, it's as a consequence of having a government that does not put the people first. And he promised that the Citizens Coalition for Change is going to be, an entity or a government, a leadership that not only practices ethical leadership, but also puts the citizens back at the center of all decision-making.
You've mentioned quite a few things, and the voters' roll, the issue with the ZEC, the authorities, the restrictive practices, the obstacles being put in your way, and some of the violence that we've seen as well. Do you think that there is a political environment conducive to produce a fair result?
Well, the political environment is not conducive to fair politics, but what a day like today tells us is that the people aren't going to allow the impediments created by Mr. Mnangagwa's repression to stand in their way. People are absolutely prepared to jump over those obstacles. So we are going to use every single tool available to us to ensure that the election, not only on the 26th of March 2022, this by-election, but also the historic and more important election in 2023 is an election that is not disputed. We're going to hold the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to account. We're going to, continue to demand and push for electoral reform, including the reform of ZEC, which is a militarized institution, an institution that behaves in a partisan manner, an institution that does not carry out its mandate that's set out in the Constitution, in other words, to its obligation to deliver a transparent, verifiable election. We are also going to ensure that the state media is held to account, because we see their partisan coverage on radio and television. It's no secret. Just this evening, the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation was misrepresenting what was said by President Chamisa in our rally, and obviously casting us in a terrible light, which is not borne out with actually what transpired at the rally today. So all of those reforms are reforms that we're going to continue to push for. And the citizens are certainly ready to participate in that. Obviously, pushing for the diaspora vote is something that's high on our agenda as well, ensuring that there's security of the vote and the voter, ensuring that there's transparency as far as the procurement of ballot material and voting material is concerned, ensuring, like I said, that there's integrity with the voters' roll, ensuring that there is accountability for political violence, because as you know, sometimes the police themselves, the security forces, those who are meant to serve and protect the citizens, are at the forefront of that violence. We saw it just on Friday with the assaults and the torture that took place. So all of those things are very high on our agenda, and the citizens are ready to take collective action, both legally and politically, to ensure that there's the accountability and electoral reform required to ensure that we don't have another disputed election that leads to an illegitimate government like we had in 2018.
If we look at the images of the numbers in the urban areas, perhaps the message has got through that there's a new party, and that those that were with you, with the MDC Alliance, must transition to this yellow movement. Is it the same in the rural areas, or is there still confusion about MDC, MDC Alliance, MDCT, MDC who, etc., etc.?
As you probably know, the Citizens Coalition for Change has structures in every single province of the country. And before the decision to start a brand new party was made, last year you saw, President Nelson Chamisa carrying out a provincial citizen tour into all rural areas. He went to Manicaland province, Masvingo province, he went to Mash West, a lot of rural areas, Binga, Matabeleland North, Matabeleland South, where the message was communicated to the people that this is what we're going to do. In fact, it's a decision that came from the citizens themselves. They said that this is what they wanted to see the main opposition do. So they certainly have the message. And if you saw, on the 24th of January 2022, when President Nelson Chamisa made the announcement that the Citizens Coalition for Change had been born. Some of the biggest all-night parties we saw were in Masvingo province, in the rural areas, in Binga, in the most remote areas of the country. And we are taking advantage of, some of our community radio stations, our structures, and other tools available to us to ensure that we continue to hit home the message that there is this new baby, the Citizens Coalition for Change. There's no confusion among the people about who their leaders are. They're very aware that those who purport to lead the MDC alliance have sold out, are proxies of the ZANU-PF regime and no longer represent their interests. They know that. They know that that's how the by-election came about. We should not be having a by-election that's costing the fiscus 15 million. But because people could not respect the will of the people, because ZANU-PF worked in cahoots with its proxies to destroy the will of the people, we are here now. And people, whether they're in rural areas and villages and towns and cities, all of them are very clear that that's what's taken place. Like I said, where political power lies is why we had the turnout that we did today. And it wasn't just citizens from Harare who came. We had citizens who came from very far afield, from as far as Beitbridge even, coming today to partner and witness the launch of the by-election campaign. That said, we are also going to conduct launches of the by-election campaign in Bulawayo, in other areas of Matabeleland, in Gweru, in Manicaland, and other provinces as well, to ensure that, this message spreads far and wide. We are a national party and we're very conscious of our obligation to ensure that we communicate to every single person, within the length and breadth of Zimbabwe.
Fadzayi Mahere, National Spokesperson, thank you very, very much indeed for joining us and giving us some insights and thoughts on what has been a big day for your party. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Peter. Have a good evening.
Good night. All right, so there you have it. The opposition party, one of the opposition parties in Zimbabwe there, having their first official gathering as a party, wearing yellow, and they came in their thousands, it seems, despite some of the challenges and obstacles that they had to overcome, not being allowed to use buses. Many people walked to the venue to show their support for party president Nelson Chamisa.